Hey guys, so today I wanted to make a video just to give you guys a couple of pointers on how to stay organized through graduate school. So if you're a nurse in grad school, I think these are things that could be really helpful. There are some strategies that I use to get through NP school and continue to use in my professional and daily life now. So really there's three tips that I think are super helpful to kind of lay some groundwork as you're starting out your program or really any big project. But number one is getting organized. Number one, being sure that we communicate. Then number three, staying motivated. Okay. So number one, getting organized. And I think that the first part of that is knowing what it is that you need to do or what is being required of you. So in the beginning, when you start any class, I think it's super important to go through the syllabus in a lot of detail, understand all the different policies and requirements, um, give a once over to all the different assignments, and be really familiar with the things that are going to be required of you throughout the course of the period of the class. And one thing that I think is super important is what I call not missing easy points. Okay. So these are things like just knowing certain policies can keep you from missing things that points that are really, really easy, right? So what is the late policy? What happens if you submit an assignment in late? What if you submit it in 2 days late? Is there more points off for that? Are there, for each individual assignment, what are the specific requirements? Is there a rubric? If so, review it in detail. Understand all the instructions, including every, at least the minimum requirements of any assignment is really, really important. Okay. So in the class I'm currently teaching, some of the papers require a certain amount of sources. So being sure that you have that minimum amount. Sometimes the sources need to be within the last 5 years. So having something that's not older than that, these are just really, really simple things that if you don't pay attention to or don't know, you're gonna lose points, and those obviously eventually add up. Okay. So just understanding what's required of you throughout the whole course and then in more detail from assignment to assignment is super important. Now, I think the next part of getting organized is planning out what you're going to do. So figuring out how, now that you know what you need to do, how are you going to get it done? And maybe more importantly, when are you going to get it done, right? So, in order for nurses, when you go into grad school, in a lot of cases, we're still working, right? Some people are working full time, part time. Some people are not working, and that's excellent. As the programs progress and they get a little more time intensive, then that becomes more challenging. But if you are still working, if you have a family, if you have other commitments, calendaring, all of this is going to be super important. Now, hopefully, you've told everybody in your life that you are going to be super busy for the next 2 to 3 years and that you're not really going to be available for anything. That's the expectation you should probably set. However, life happens, right? If you're a parent, you've got kids, if you're married or a significant other, they will require some of your time. So understanding, when these things are going to happen is super important. Now, in detail, what I like to do is I like to calendar for 2 weeks in advance. Now, some people do 1 week in advance, and I think that's fine. I feel like 2 weeks gives me a nice cushion. I can look forward, and if I need to make any adjustments, I feel like I have kind of some more leeway there. Okay, but really that means what's due this week. So in my current course, there are every week 2 discussion postings with required responses, and then a writing assignment that's due every single week. So what I would do and what I did when I was in school is I would go through and in my calendar write when I'm going to complete these things, right? Monday from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. I'm going to sit and work on schoolwork. I'm going to plan on getting DQ1 done. I'm going to start my writing assignment. And like that, just plug it into the calendar. That way you have dedicated time to get these things done. You're not trying to get it done between work or while your kids are bothering you or while somebody else is expecting you to do something else. So I think that that's a super helpful and super important task that can really pay dividends when we have that kind of dedicated time to do those things. Kind of in that same vein, I would look forward, if you're in an 8 or 16 week class or whatever, at bigger assignments you may have in your life, whatever that is, right? Maybe it's your best friend's birthday, or your sister's getting married, or you have an anniversary, or whatever, right? If you have something big like that, knowing, what is what is that going to look like? Um, Telling them in the beginning, I may not be available for that. Again, that's probably the safest thing to do. However, if you are trying to kind of make it to that, what's that going to look like? And I think that's going to save you a lot of stress and anxiety as we're looking forward on those things. Okay. Now, the second thing that I mentioned was communicating. And sometimes we don't really think about this, and I'm talking about just communicating with everybody. Again, you've hopefully spoken to all your loved ones. So, talking to your family, whether that's your parents, your spouse, your significant other, about what they can expect from you, and that way you know what to expect from them. But also communicating with your instructor or your professor. Okay, if you have issues, if you have time constraints, if you need whatever you need, like, don't be afraid to ask or talk about that. I mean, in most cases, people are going to want to help you, right? Now, obviously, the course has requirements, and sometimes those things can be adjusted, but sometimes they can't. But at least you know. So if there's any question, I would not hesitate to shoot an email off to the professor and say, hey, I have A or B thing going on. Can I have extra time to do this? Can I submit something early? What happens if I do this? And just having that open line of communication is super important, because it helps them understand where you're coming from, and hopefully, if they can give you, make some accommodations for you. Again, I would say with your family, with your, if you have, whatever, your counselor at school who's helping you, work things out as well. Just communicate, right? Like, send out emails, talk to people. Don't just assume that, you're not going to be able to do A or B thing. The worst thing anyone can do is say, no, we can't do that. And then at least and you've moved on. While that's a really simple thing, I think can be powerful and really helpful. So don't hesitate to do those things, okay? Now, number three is staying motivated. Now, this sometimes can be challenging in the beginning. When you start that course, you're really excited, and that's really awesome. As things get a little more challenging, sometimes that can get harder. And what I want you to do is think about, why are you even doing this? Why did you decide to go to grad school, right? Do you, want to progress your career because you have some ambitions or aspirations? And are those goals that you want to meet? Those should motivate you, right? Is this, yeah, why are you doing this? So that you can do something better for your family, for yourself. So understanding that and knowing that and having that, I think, is super important, and being able to kind of reflect on that, because it will get challenging. There's times where you'll be up late studying, writing, doing whatever, and you don't want to stay up. You're tired, you're grumpy. And those are the times where you kind of think about, like, that why, right? And hopefully that moves and motivates us, okay? I think a couple other things that are important as far as staying motivated is continue to do you, whatever that is, right? I don't know. Do you do yoga? Do you mountain bike? Do you play Sudoku? I said that wrong, I'm sure. But I obviously don't play Sudoku. But find time to do those things that make you happy. And life is busy, but it goes back to that calendaring and scheduling. Be sure you're doing some of those things for yourself as well, making time to spend time with whatever or whoever it is that makes you happy. Be sure that that's important, because it you know again, why are we doing this? And so that kind of goes to kind of trying to strike that balance, which is kind of a misnomer, because I think it's very difficult to actually balance that. For the next few years, school is going to take a big part of your life, a disproportionate part of your life, but it will be worth it in the end. Because as you accomplish this, hopefully you'll find some joy, and some happiness from having accomplished something like this. Okay, so remember, do you, go whatever it is, exercise, go walk the dog, go play with your kids, go see your sister, whatever it is. Don't forget to do those things. I think those are three things that are super important and can be really helpful. And I hope that you guys kind of find those helpful and figure out how to implement those in your lives so that you guys can have a successful program. All right, we will talk to you guys later.